Ever felt something you couldn't explain? A decision was made before the meeting even began. A shift in the room's gravity so subtle that you thought you imagined it. You walk away from a conversation feeling like you've lost something, but you can't pinpoint a single word of aggression, a single threat. There were none, that's the point. You have been taught to listen to words, to believe in promises, to look for the loud, obvious signs of power. A king on a throne, a general shouting orders, a boss raising his voice. But this is a nursery rhyme told to keep you asleep. The real power, the kind that shapes your life, that determines your fate, is silent. It moves in the spaces between words, in the gestures that go unnoticed, in the alliances forged in quiet corridors. You are playing a game where you have been meticulously taught the wrong rules, and until now, you have been losing. You feel a constant, gnawing unease. A sense that you are navigating a world that operates on a level you can't quite grasp. You follow the rules, you work hard, you speak your truth, and yet you see others, often less skilled, less deserving, glide past you with an unnerving ease. They don't argue, they don't fight, they simply win. How? They understand what you are only now beginning to suspect. The most important battles are never announced. The most absolute victories are won without a single word being spoken. This isn't a failure in you. It is a veil that has been placed over your eyes since birth, a comforting illusion that the world is straightforward, that what you see is what you get. Today, we tear that veil. We will venture into the shadows with a guide who was condemned for telling the truth, a man whose name has become synonymous with cynical, cutthroat politics, but who was in reality simply a cartographer of power. He drew the map of the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. His name was Machiavelli, and his forbidden teachings will show you how powerful men win without words, and how you have been controlled by a force you couldn't even see. To understand the silence, we must first understand the man who dared to listen to it. Machiavelli wasn't a monster. He was a pragmatist, a diplomat who had been broken by the very power he sought to understand. Exiled and stripped of his influence, he wrote not to praise tyranny, but to dissect it, to give the common man the sheep, the cunning of the fox and the strength of the lion. He famously wrote, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves." This wasn't a call to be a predator. It was a lesson in survival. The powerful men who win without words have mastered this duality. They don't need to roar like a lion constantly. Their reputation, their calculated actions, their very presence does the roaring for them. Their silence is the coiled potential of the lion, and they are foxes. They see the traps you stumble into. The trap of believing a colleague's praise is genuine when it's a maneuver to learn your weaknesses. The trap of assuming a boss's friendly advice is for your benefit when it's designed to steer you away from an opportunity they want for someone else. Machiavelli's vision is that human affairs are a relentless theater of power, not just in palaces and boardrooms, but in your family, in your relationships, in every interaction you have. Powerful men don't win by giving speeches. They win by understanding the stage. They know where to stand, when to be seen, and most importantly, when to remain in the shadows. They orchestrate outcomes. While you are busy memorizing your lines, the words you will say, they are arranging the scenery, setting the lights, and deciding how the play will end long before the curtain rises. They communicate through action and calculated inaction. A favor granted to one person sends a silent message to 100 others. A deliberately unanswered email establishes a hierarchy more effectively than any memo. This is their language, a language of pure effect. Where does the pain come from? The suffering you feel isn't from failure. It's from confusion. It's the soul-crushing agony of playing a game with dedication and heart, only to realize that your opponent was playing an entirely different game all along, on a board you never knew existed. Think about it. The project you poured your soul into for months, the one you knew was brilliant. It gets shut down without a clear reason. The official explanation is budget cuts or strategic realignment. Empty words. But you saw it. You saw how a certain executive would go silent whenever it was praised. You saw how a rival colleague would subtly plant seeds of doubt in informal chats by the coffee machine, never in an open meeting. No one ever said, "I am killing your project." They didn't have to. The decision was made in whispers, in knowing glances, in a silent consensus among those who understood the real currency of the office, not merit, but influence. This is the root of your pain. It's the sting of being outmaneuvered. It's the slow-burning helplessness of watching your efforts get dismantled by invisible hands. It's the relationship that suddenly grew cold. There was no final argument, no dramatic breakup, just a slow withdrawal of presence, a shift in priorities, a silence that screamed louder than any fight ever could. You were being told it was over, without a single word being used. You were being demoted in someone's life, and you were expected to understand and accept it quietly. This pain is the tax on naivety. It's the suffering of the pawn who believes it can become a king by simply moving forward, one square at a time, unaware of the bishops and knights moving diagonally, unseen, to trap it from all sides. You have been living your life on that one forward-moving line, while the world around you moves in every direction. Why don't you see it? Because you have been sedated by the most powerful lie ever told, the illusion of the explicit world. Society, your education, your culture, they have all conspired to sell you a fantasy. The fantasy that power is obvious, that fairness is the default setting of the world, that if you are honest, direct, and hard-working, you will be rewarded. This lie is a tranquilizer. It keeps the population docile and predictable. It encourages you to focus on the spoken rules, the employee handbook, the legal contracts. Why? Because while you are busy debating the fine print, the powerful are winning in the vast, unregulated territory of the unspoken. They want you to believe that power is loud and ugly, so that you will be repulsed by it and never seek to understand it. They brand Machiavelli a devil, so you will never read his work and discover their playbook. The illusion is that intentions are stated, but the powerful man's greatest strength is that his true intentions are never stated. He will publicly praise a rival he intends to destroy. Why? Because it disarms the rival and makes the eventual takedown look like a regrettable necessity, not a planned execution. He will use words of unity and teamwork to mask a strategy of divide and conquer. He speaks of transparency while making the most critical decisions behind closed doors. This is the illusion that binds you, the belief that words represent reality. You are a prisoner in a cell with no bars, held captive by your faith in a system that was designed by the foxes to manage the sheep. You are waiting for a declaration of war that will never come, because the war is already over, and it was won in silence yesterday. Now let us turn to the cold, hard, philosophical truth. Let the comforting illusions burn away. Machiavelli teaches us that power is not a moral issue. It is a physical one, like gravity. It exists. It governs the movement of all things. You can choose to deny it, but you will still fall. Or you can learn its principles and use them to stand firm. The raw truth is this: human nature is fixed. Men are, as Machiavelli wrote, ungrateful, fickle, simulators and deceivers, avoiders of danger, greedy for gain. This is not pessimism. This is realism. To build any strategy on the hope that people will be consistently noble is to build your house on sand. Powerful men build on stone. They operate on how people are, not how they wish them to be. This is why Machiavelli's infamous advice, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both," is so profoundly misunderstood. Fear, in the Machiavellian sense, is not about making people tremble. It is not about cruelty. It is about being a force that must be reckoned with. It is about respect. Love is fickle. It can be lost in a moment. But a deep, silent respect for your competence, for your boundaries, for the consequences of betraying you, that is durable. How do powerful men build this fear without words? Through unwavering consistency, through demonstrating competence so profound that it becomes intimidating. By occasionally withholding a favor, they show that their generosity is a choice, not an obligation. By remaining calm in a crisis, they project an aura of control that is more commanding than any order. Their power is not in what they say, but in the environment they create. They cultivate a reputation that precedes them, a story that is told about them in whispers. That story, of their strength, their cunning, their resolve, is their silent weapon. It neutralizes enemies and secures loyalty far more effectively than any threat or promise ever could. They have made themselves a fact of life that others must navigate, not a person others can persuade. Accepting this truth is not easy. It is a violent process. It is the sound of your worldview shattering into a million pieces. The first emotion is often disgust. A wave of cynicism washes over you. Is this all there is? Is every human interaction a cold calculation of power? Can anyone ever be trusted? This is the dark night of the soul for the newly awakened. You begin to look back on your life, and the past reconfigures itself with horrifying clarity. The friend who betrayed you. You now see the subtle preparatory moves they made for months. The job you lost. You now hear the silent campaigns waged against you. The pain of these memories is sharpened by this new, brutal understanding. You weren't just unlucky, you were outplayed. This is a lonely, agonizing place. You feel alienated from the sleeping masses around you, who still speak the language of sincerity and good faith. You feel tainted by this knowledge, as if you've learned a dark magic. This internal conflict is the crucible. The pain is the fire of transformation. You must walk through it. Do not turn back to the comfort of the old illusion. The death of naivety is a prerequisite for the birth of wisdom. You are shedding a skin that was keeping you weak and vulnerable. It hurts, it feels raw, but it is necessary. This disillusionment is not the end of your journey. It is the violent, chaotic, and absolutely essential beginning. You are not becoming a monster. You are simply, for the first time in your life, opening your eyes. And what you do with that sight is now, finally, up to you. Once the foundation of lies has been reduced to ash, you can begin to build. This knowledge from Machiavelli is not a curse, it is a tool of liberation. It does not compel you to become a tyrant, it empowers you to never again be a victim. This is not a sword for you to wield against others, but a shield to protect your own soul. How do you reconstruct your world? First, you learn to observe, not just see, but truly observe. In a meeting, stop listening only to the words. Watch who looks at whom when a key point is made. Notice whose ideas are always ignored and whose are always validated, regardless of merit. Observe the flow of favors. Who is indebted to whom? The world will begin to reveal its hidden wiring to you. Second, you cultivate your own virtue. Your skill, your competence, your inner strength. Your true power doesn't come from manipulating others. It comes from making yourself so valuable, so skilled, and so independent that you are no longer dependent on the whims of others. Become the craftsman, not the tool. Build your own fortress of talent, a place no one can touch. Third, you learn to use silence. You have been trained to fill every uncomfortable pause, to explain yourself, to constantly signal your intentions. Stop. In your next negotiation, in your next argument, try saying less. Hold your ground with a calm silence. Watch as the other person, unnerved by the vacuum, begins to reveal their strategy, their weaknesses, their true desires. Your silence will become a canvas, and they will paint their entire inner world upon it for you to see. This is not about becoming cold or unfeeling. It is about becoming strategic. It is about choosing where to invest your energy, your trust, and your loyalty with the wisdom of a general, not the blind faith of a recruit. You are learning to play the game, finally, with your eyes wide open. In the end, you must understand this. The loudest commands are the ones that are never spoken. The strongest prisons are the ones with no walls, the ones built from the illusions you refuse to abandon. The most profound control is the control you are not aware of. Machiavelli did not offer us comfort. He offered us a map of the battlefield. He gave us the terrible, liberating truth that the world of men is a world of power. It has always been so, and it will always be so. The powerful do not need to raise their voice because they have shaped the very reality in which you live. Their victory is in your quiet compliance, in your unknowing participation in their script. But today something has changed. The world is the same as it was yesterday. The silent games continue. The invisible hands are still moving the pieces on the board, but you are not the same. You have been given the gift of sight. You can now hear the silence. You can now see the strings. So the question that remains is not about them, it's about you. Now that you know the rules of the game that has been played against you, will you continue to be a pawn, content to be moved and sacrificed? Or will you finally, for the first time, reach out your own hand and make a move for yourself? If this video touched something inside of you, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Comment below what made you think the most. We'll see you in the next video.